following podcast may contain some adult language. You've been warned.
Welcome to Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG Podcast. This is a show dedicated to the Genesys Role Playing System created by Fantasy Flight Games and produced by Edge Studios. A show in which we, your hosts, discuss all things Genesys from both a player's and a GM's perspective. I am Tony Fanning, and with me as always are my good friends and co-hosts, Chris Holmes, Stefan Dragonspawn. How are you doing, fellas? Stefan, particularly you. How are you, good friend?
I am great. I'm great. Just making sure we survive this little pandemic and all the lockdowns and stuff. Having some fun along the way and when we can, and doing some great art. I'm drawing a bit more, enjoying that.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, you
fuck
are.
Yeah.
So,
Love that picture you did of the Arnskull twins.
Yeah, and Calvin just looming behind them. So
Yep.
I drew Chris and Tony's characters in another campaign, another
Prince
game
thing.
that Jamie is running, and our friend Daryl is also in there. So
Yeah.
I just felt inspired to do it.
Good stuff.
Just have some fun. So, and just for the hell of it, I started drawing Simgurn on his own with his trusty animal companion, the lynx Arrow.
Cool.
For the
Very
record, Craig, my character, gives your drawing 5 silver spoons.
Ooh, silver spoons too.
Nice.
Spoon.
And
I had a-
Ovar gives your drawing 5 Clangeddon smites.
Excellent. Excellent. I had a lot of difficulty with the hammer, for Craig's hammer, just drawing it.
Yeah.
It's like too puny. No, the angle is off. Like, no, this is way too big this time.
Yeah.
This looked ridiculous. Then finally got it.
I'm envious of your talent, dude. It's great.
Thank you. Well, it's been a while. Sometimes I had to take a break as my fingers were not getting too clenched on the pencils. Like, okay, relax.
Oh, okay. Just wondering where you're going
No,
there
no,
for a moment there,
we're
Stefan.
No, we're talking about the art.
Talking about if that's what you want to call it.
That's it. And how are you, Chris?
You know what? I'm doing fan-fucking-tabulous because the Packers lost and are not going to the Super Bowl. Tom Brady's going to his 10th one. Jesus, that's fucking incredible. But this is not a podcast about football. It is about role-playing. And the more games that I GM or DM, the more characters die. Had a fairly lethal one Thursday night with you guys in Rime of the Frost Maiden in that Shift D Shift 7D game. Yowzers. But you guys made new characters, and we'll be on the brewery again, doing a recording again on Thursday to pick
That's
it up
it.
from where we left off. So
That's it.
so
Chris
much
almost
fun.
did a TPK. Next time, maybe he'll succeed.
Yep, and I'll be
Not
running
if I have anything to do with it.
and I will be running, and which I've never run, I've never played it, and I've never DM'd it, is Against the Giants from Tales of the Yawning Portal for my Saturday night group. That's my normal, like my Grognard group, right, that we normally go face to face with, but we've been obviously online for almost the last year. And that's in Tales of the Yawning Portal, 5th edition. Those adventures came out in 1981. Yes, everybody. Long fucking time ago.
Yeah.
Never ran through it. So I'll be running them through it, and they're making 11th level characters, and hopefully you fuckers made backups. All right. Anyways, Tony, how you doing, buddy?
Well, as the sole survivor of your TPK experience, near TPK,
Yep.
I had people go listen to the brewery or watch it on YouTube.
Oh yeah, it's great.
We are having a great time playing D&D over there. That's why we're talking about it so much.
Yeah.
But no, I'm doing good, man. Got myself a brand new baby kitten this week.
Oh,
Yes.
Named
And, Ripley.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was a survivor. She'd been through hell and back, so I named her after my favorite heroine from the Alien franchise. So, yes, named her Ripley, and she is just an adorable little turd monster. So,
Nice.
Excellent.
and that has been the absolute extent of my week. I have been enjoying having a new kitten. Had her
Yeah, you have.
sitting here at the computer with me the other night when we were playing.
Co-GMing.
She co-GM'd with me on Wednesday night when I ran D&D for my local game store group.
Awesome.
Yeah, so she's not down here right now. She's bonding with her mother, so she's upstairs in bed with my wife.
Already
So-
then.
Very
Okay. So what are we talking about tonight, gentlemen?
I don't know, some shit.
It's a great title
No,
that you came up with.
yeah,
Stefan.
I didn't come up with this.
Yeah, Stefan.
Stefan has produced a show title for episode 75, Fast and Furious Narratives, where you, myself, and Stefan, all three of us, we're going to get into the vehicle rules deep into the vehicle.
Drive. We're going to do a deep drive.
Yes.
Vehicle rules. I
That's
noticed
right.
that in the show notes there, Tony. The capital R you put in there. Well done, sir. Well
I
done.
might have put that there. Yeah.
Could be a deep dive if we're doing submarines. So.
Shush you.
Oh, no, deep drive. Deep drive is back.
All right. But there's only one way we're going to go forward, and that's to get on with it.
Yes.
Here we are. We're going to have Stefan boost the signal tonight, where he shares all the Genesys news, fresh off the wire. Reviews a project potentially. Yeah, nice. Reviews a project from the Edge Studio section of Drive Through RPG. What you got for us, Stefan?
All right. Well, thank you for that intro. Always nice as usual. Today, I've got two great little items. First off is another entry into the Boost series. Boost standing for the Book of Online Sourced Triumphs. And they're up to number 5, which gives us ideas for a Weird West subgenre. So a little bit of material there. It's 8 pages covering some new gear like the Adventurer's Blunderbuss, which I find pretty neat.
Cool.
The Adventurer's Blunderbuss has been the go-to weapon for monster hunters and vigilantes alike. By its nature, it is a very dangerous weapon and often inflicts bystander casualties. Consequently, nearly all towns have laws restricting ownership of an adventurer's blunderbuss.
Oh, that just raises a fucking murder hobo adventuring group to a whole new level.
Yep. I think if I remember correctly, it takes one advantage less to activate blast with it because it has almost like the shotgun things. That's why it has bystander casualties.
Nice.
Yep. So it includes as well some new talents, a new archetype, and some new adversaries like the Bloodhound. And each adversary comes with an RPG Sessions link. So if you want to have it on the stats and play online, you can do it through there.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yep. And then they even have a short adventure at the end called Ghost Carriage. And as usual, all the boost items are free. And not even pay what you want, you just offer it for free.
Awesome.
So pretty good art, great, the Genesys template layout, really nice. So pretty cool. So link in the show notes for that. And then we have another one that would be suitable for sci-fi, like the Android setting. So do you want to be more than human? That's the title of it, More Than Human. Of course you do. You need it to stay one step ahead of everyone else. So within that, you'll find 2 new cyborg archetypes, 7 new cybernetics, 5 Gmods, new Gmods as well, and a guideline for how to handle complete cyberization of a character, so the complete Borg conversions.
Oh,
Well, that could be pretty cool. So shedding their flesh for a synthetic new shell, take your step into the future, reject your organic hull, and become more than human. Wahaha.
cool.
So yeah, you can use it like in any near future sci-fi setting. That's what they aim at, not just the Shadow of the Beanstalk. And it's the guy Daniel Rader who offers it as a pay what you want, and 9 pages of goodness with a great layout similar to the Shadow of the Beanstalk setting, with various new things in there. Pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, you can totally use that for that salvage setting. I
Oh,
ran
yeah.
that for my Saturday night group, a couple weeks ago, and they have the cybernetics and that. So yeah, cool.
Keyforge too.
Yep.
Keyforge.
Yep.
Yep.
Whatever like new Gmods, for example, Prehensible Tail or Gecko Palms.
Nice.
So you can climb sheer surfaces.
Nice. Nice.
And so yeah, so those are the 2 items that were offered on Drive-Thru-RPG via the Edge Studio section. So go ahead, go check them out. Hopefully this puts a bit of spotlight on them and gets them some more downloads.
All right. Well, then,
There we go for boosting the signal.
Cool. Let's head into the meat of this show then. All right.
Hey.
All right. Well, welcome to the Books of Genesis. This is where we're going to break down a section of the Books of Genesis bit by bit. This time we are going to, I think we're going to do 2 parts to this deep drive in the vehicles. We are going to be looking at the vehicle rules can be found in the Core Rulebook on pages 220 to 231. There's also the vehicle creation rules in the Expanded Player's Guide, pages 58 through 73. Man, I wish there was 558 pages in that, right? More stuff, I guess. Well, maybe not. I don't know. There's a lot.
That would be a really expanded book.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead and crack open your Core Rulebook, page 220, and we will jump into it, into these vehicle rules here, where we have our own characteristics and skills and whatever for our player, for our characters. This section here will define the characteristics that vehicles have, and then how that plays in and what those characteristics mean, mechanically speaking, for the game. And narratively speaking too, because there's some of that in here too. So I guess without further ado, who wants to kick this off?
I can.
All right, start deep driving us then, there, Tony.
All right. So to go through the individual, I mean, we can name them all off, but instead we're just going to dive into them individually. And the first one listed is handling. This is a measure of the vehicle's agility and how well it responds to its pilot and crew. Enormous sailing ships, cars, starfighters, all of them have a handling rating. Mechanically, this rating is represented by a number, and that number determines how many boost or setback dice you're going to get on your piloting checks with that vehicle. Pilots add setback dice with a negative handling value and boost dice equal to the vehicle's positive handling value. We also have a couple of handy charts when talking about handling.
What are those?
And that's the one that gives you, first of all, the examples of various different vehicles handling. Mm-hmm. That's table 3.2-13, handling examples. And it's got a list of from -4 to +4, because that's really the great range to keep. You don't need to go any higher than that or lower than that unless it's like a super specific tweak to a vehicle. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But this gives you, an idea of what something is going to have handling wise. Like if you're talking, a horse, a trained horse is going to be +1. Same as a bicycle and a hovercraft.
Cool.
Whereas a horse-drawn cart, that's a little harder to handle. That's a -1.
True.
And so on and so forth. And of course,
and if I'm at the helm of my aircraft carrier, that's going to be a -3.
Or if you're piloting a neural interfaced exoskeleton, you're going to have that +4.
Nice. That's 4 boost dice.
Yeah.
And Stefan will still fucking ask for them.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
for that 5th one, so you
Oh,
might
yeah.
as well not even go any higher than 4, because 5 is really just
A lot.
way out.
It is.
No,
Awesome.
yeah, that's their recommendation, is that you not go above 4.
Yep.
Or
Cool.
below it. And then also we have the chart for Table 3.2-14, Vehicle Speeds in Structured Encounters. And
Well, let's talk
I think
about
that
speed
goes into
first.
speed. I
Yeah,
think that goes into
yeah.
speed,
Talk about
which is
speed.
somebody else's job. Moving on. Next.
All right, I'll take over.
Maximum speed there.
Yeah. Gave me those controls. There you go.
There you go.
Take the
So,
wheel.
yes. Yeah. All right, so I shift into H. H, which country is this car made into? It does not exist anymore. Oh, okay. So yes, of course, every car has, or every vehicle has handling. Also, will have a maximum speed. There's certain things that it can't go beyond. So this is represented by a certain number. It's not necessarily miles per hour or kilometers per hour or anything like that. It's a bit more narrative. And usually, every round you'll determine which speed your vehicle goes to, and whether you can slow down or accelerate. That'll be part of the turn and making decisions. That will determine, when you decide that, it determines what speeds your vehicle will be going in relation to other vehicles.
Okay.
And like Tony was mentioning, we have the table there, but before the table, we'll have the effects of, let's say, current speeds. They do have a couple of paragraphs about that. So when using your speed, you always track the current speed. A vehicle may be operating at any speed from 0 to its maximum, and then use maneuvers to accelerate or decelerate. And then while the vehicle's current speed is 1 or higher, there might be other effects, which we'll go to on the table. So the table mentions, for example, speed 1 to 5. So speed 0, well, you're not moving at all. There are not much other effects going. Speed 1 and 2, you're still moving forward, but you're not that fast yet. 3 and 4, then some effects that can have is upgrading the difficulty of all piloting checks or driving, depending on the skill. Because when you're going that fast, it's a little harder to control. You also add +20 to the result of any criticals you suffer as a result of a collision. Speed 4 has fairly similar as well, increasing upgrading speed 5, sorry. 3 to 4 was the previous text I mentioned. Speed 5, which is the maximum on the chart, also forces you to upgrade the difficulty of combat checks and combat checks targeting the vehicle, in addition to difficulty of piloting. But in this case, you also upgrade twice when piloting, because you're really at the maximum speed almost for most vehicles. and you add plus 40 this time to any collision.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So what you got to remember is when you're at the beginning of your turn or at the end of the pilot's turn, you'll move those number of range bands associated with your speed. So, 1 to 2, you'll move 2 range bands. 3 to 4, you'll move 3. If you go in speed 5, you'll move 4 range bands. So that'll affect what other people are doing in your group.
Or if
weapons or whatever. Yeah.
That's it. Or depending if they're stationary, how fast you're moving in relation to them. It's like, by the time you're done moving, you're 4 range bands away. If they decide to act afterwards, well, there'll be longer range for them to try and shoot at you or affect you somehow.
Yep. Yeah, so that's the effect of the current speed, and I was just starting to talk about like the steering. That's like the pilot's job to keep him moving, right? And as part of his movement, the pilot would maybe make a piloting check, but we'll get into that. But there are also other actions like performing a dangerous driving action. If you want to ignore the safety manuals and road signs and
tolerances.
And the consideration of the laws of physics. If you want to do shit, zigzagging through obstacles, those kinds of things. But after all of those things happen, then the GM would determine the final position of the vehicle.
Yeah. But, that reminds me of a advantageous threat that we once did on the show, setting in Keyforge. I decided my character decided to do something stupid, as I said it, trying to spin the my opponent off the vehicle.
That's right. I remember that. Yep. So then there was one thing, the last paragraph in there on the next page, on page 222, is if the vehicle has more than one pilot. Steering only occurs at the turn of the first pilot to act each round, meaning either like I said, at the beginning of that pilot's turn or at the end of it. That's when you would move the vehicle. Okay, and then if there's another co-pilot, if there's a second one piloting the vehicle, then you don't move the vehicle again. You just move it to 1. Right. And if there's no pilot who could steer it, it still moves, but it does so at the end of the round. You don't want to move that until the end of the round. And then this way you can determine what objects and what location you're at, and it might hit along the way. So
exactly,
that's a very subtle thing that when I was reading this, I missed this when we were doing when I had reviewed this before our the actual play that I ran, because this condition wouldn't have come up for us, right? Where nobody's driving the vehicle. Well, maybe when Jabberjaw was playing his drums, right?
Details,
but it's subtle, right? I mean, we did. That was a little different. I tweaked those a bit to fit a race. That wasn't actually a chase, but in a way it was, because you want to get in first place, but still, so that's subtle. So before we go on, is there anything else? Is there anything you wanted to mention, Tony, about that? Did we miss anything in there?
Nope. But part of the steering and part of the movement is the collisions paragraph.
Yeah. That's it.
Yep.
Because like you said, if there's no pilot, it might run into something.
Oh yeah. Oh, there's no might.
Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead, Tony.
Yep, there are occasions when vehicles will run into terrain around them or a nearby vehicle, including when characters decide to drive their vehicle into another vehicle. In the case of a minor collision, all vehicles involved suffer a single critical hit. You subtract its defense rating times 10 from the amount rolled. And if the result is reduced to 0 or less, the vehicle's shields or defenses absorb the critical hit and nullified it.
Cool.
So in this case, where for collisions, it breaks the rule of Genesys critical hits that it can't go below 1. It can take it below 0, and if it does, it's nullified.
Yep.
And in the case of major collisions, all vehicles involved suffer a critical hit as well. Subtract the vehicle's defense times 5 from the critical hit result. If the result is reduced to 0 or less, the critical hit is canceled. So this really kind of makes that defense rating even more appropriate. And we'll talk about the defense ratings.
Yep.
But those collisions are rolled on a critical hit chart. And at your discretion, some particularly large vehicles, this is important, might be able to ignore collisions with very small vehicles. However, larger vehicles have a harder time avoiding collisions with terrain features. So just keep that in mind. I would say if you're dealing with vehicles that are 2 silhouettes larger or more, that's when you start considering it.
Right. So my big ship. You mean I have to consider that small little iceberg in front of me?
Damn right.
I'm trying to cross the. I had no idea.
Yep.
But the little fucking TIE fighter that just crashed on my Death Star is fine. Don't have to worry about that. All right.
Yep.
That makes sense.
That was a gnat.
And speaking of which, that's actually a good segue into silhouettes.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be not only it's the size, it's an abstract number to describe the size and mass relative to other vehicles. So definitely factors heavily into the calculation of being able to attack different targets. So if you have a target that's much bigger than you, it'd be easier to hit, and vice versa. So you would go back on the earlier pages, I think it was page 109 or something like that, where if you are 2 silhouettes or higher than or smaller than what you're trying to attack, you get a boost die. So in this case, it would come into play here too. And silhouettes range from 10 to or 0 to 10. Human being silhouette 1. And average size human. Silhouette 2 would be, most cars and animals like, horses or, the
rhinos.
The Rogue One down in my garage. And then fighter jets, planes, tractor trailer trucks would be silhouette 3 to 4. But then that aircraft carrier that I wanted to turn on a dime, that would be pretty much anywhere in, silhouette 5 through 10. And I believe the Death Star was 10, silhouette 10, I believe.
Yep.
Right? I think they had said that in the, your planet size.
Small moons.
Small
vehicles. Moon. Yeah, it's a small moon. What is that? It's a small moon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
but yes, the Death Star is the high end of the limit of the system with 10.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Although you can have vehicles even bigger than that.
They're 10.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, a drone would be silhouette 0, right? A small drone, I would think, would be a silhouette 0 that you're flying around. Depending. I mean, if it's a Predator drone, it'd probably be silhouette 1. But
and a good thing to note, if you turn your body into a flying object or vehicle, if you use magic to fly, or if you are using a jetpack or rocket boots, you are a vehicle of that silhouette, of the size of your body. So if you're a silhouette 1 creature, you're a silhouette 1 vehicle.
There you go. That's awesome. That's good. That's good. I think that's probably all we needed to really say about silhouette. That's pretty straightforward. Everybody's pretty familiar with that. So what's next, Tony? What do we got?
Well, we have the hull trauma threshold. So hull trauma threshold is a reflection of the vehicle's sturdiness and its resistance to damage. The sturdiness of a ship's hull and mast, the quality of a bicycle's chain and gears, the resilience of a tank's frame are all represented by the hull trauma threshold. Like wound threshold for players, the hull trauma threshold represents the amount of physical damage a vehicle can suffer before it is rendered inoperable or destroyed.
Mhm.
In game terms, when the vehicle exceeds its hull trauma threshold, one of two things happen. If it is occupied by only unimportant characters, such as minion NPCs, it is, wow, I think that's like the first time in Genesis they actually call them NPCs.
They do. Yeah, such as minions.
Yeah, such as minion adversaries.
Mm-hmm.
It is simply destroyed. Crashes, crumples, flips over, explodes, whatever.
Nice.
TIE fighters go boom. Okay.
Yeah, they do.
If it is occupied by a plot-relevant character, aka player characters, or nemesis adversaries, or important rival
named
adversaries.
Rivals. Yeah.
Yep. It suffers a critical hit and becomes inoperable. So, yeah, that's why. Plot.
Yeah.
That's right.
Until its hull trauma is reduced until its hull trauma is reduced to its hull trauma threshold or below. That's the words.
Mm-hmm.
All of its components are considered compromised.
Yes.
And then we got a little. Please
Sidebar.
note the vehicle components on page 221 is a big sidebar.
That's a nice one. That's a good one. You want to go through it?
I've got us going through it elsewhere.
Okay.
In the notes, I believe.
Well.
But the important thing is when you're talking about hull threshold, the important thing is to talk about repairing it, because that's where it gets important. So we have two sidebars on page 222 with the hull trauma threshold. We have repairing hull trauma and emergency repairs.
Right.
So while system strain and the results of critical hits are temporary, hull trauma is more permanent. Repairing hull trauma requires three things: proper facilities, money, and time. Proper facilities have the tools, the light, the parts, and the workspace available. So we recommend paying 100 units of whatever fundage you have in your system to repair 1 point of hull trauma. But the cost can fluctuate based on your character's reputation, the scarcity of parts, other factors at the GM's discretion. A good rule of thumb for light damage, which is up to a quarter of the vehicle's total hull threshold, should take an amount of time measured in days, while any damage over that takes weeks or even months to repair.
Gotcha.
So your AT montage of repairing a vehicle, it's going to take time and money.
And one very important thing that we need to mention here is that this hull trauma threshold is measured on a planetary scale, not a personal scale, which means one hull trauma equals 10 wounds on an individual. So you're going to multiply that number by 10. So I know we've had mentioned that before, but
it's important to know. Thank you.
Yep.
So if you throw a grenade at a vehicle and it does 15 points of damage, it only does 1.
Exactly. It's got to do at least 10 to do 1 on the thing. So, all right, cool.
Okay, and then the other part here we were talking about, the other sidebar, is the emergency repairs. So people may want to do some emergency repairs in the middle of an encounter. There's a way of doing that. The crew or the pilot with hull trauma that exceeds the hull trauma threshold may attempt emergency repairs by scavenging all available parts from the vehicle and making a hard mechanics check. Success brings the vehicle back to a semblance of life. The vehicle reduces its hull trauma to 1 point below its full threshold. So if your vehicle has 10-point hull threshold and you had taken 12 points of damage to it and it was inoperable, and you perform this and you succeed, it goes down to 9. If it had 20 points of damage to it and you perform this task, and I'm your GM, I'm going to upgrade your check. But if you succeed, it goes back to 9. All you need is one simple success.
That's right.
But the important is the vehicle reduces its hull trauma by 1 point
below the trauma
but its
threshold.
Defenses. Sorry. What, homie?
Oh, I was just gonna say that below its hull trauma threshold. That's what you had just mentioned.
Right. But its defenses, hull, navigation, and weapons remain compromised until it receives more intensive repairs. So all those systems are still
all those vehicle components.
compromised.
Yep, all those components are still compromised. So, but at least you're not going to be vented into space.
If
you're
truck
in space.
along.
Yes,
That's
you
it.
sure can.
You've held the frame long enough to cross the finish line, or
Yep.
or get to where you're going. But
It's being held together by Bondo, duct tape, and sheer will of force.
exactly. The air conditioning is shot. The radio is not working.
Yep.
Heat warmers, forget it.
All right, so who wants to tackle the next one? System strain.
I'll do it.
All right.
System strain. So, like NPC, not NPCs, but PCs and Nemesis, they have system. They have a strain threshold. This was they call it system strain for a vehicle. Represents the vehicle's ability to function under rigorous use and the point at which it overheats, depletes its power source, or ceases functioning. So this can represent a sailing ship's moving parts like the tiller and ropes. In a futuristic battle suit, it might represent the state of the art, reactor, its linear motors, whatever, pistons, etc.
My Camaro, trying to get up the Camaro that I used to have to get up my driveway in the winter.
Yeah, there you go.
The icy driveway in the winter.
Yeah, so the drivetrain, the the tires,
Mhm.
yeah, the electrical system, trying to start it because it's too cold.
That's true. Forgot to plug it in to heat that engine block like they do up in Canada. Do you have to do that? Do you have to plug in your vehicles there, Stefan, when you don't have?
A lot of places do. I haven't done it in years, but
Gotcha.
I have done it in other cars. Yeah.
Nice.
So yes. Yep, it's cold. It's cold outside. So yeah, most often the vehicle system strain suffers system strain due to actions of its crew because they're pushing it to or beyond its breaking point. Pushing its capabilities. Driving a tank over rough ground, sailing a ship through a storm might cause system strain, as well as pushing the engine of a car beyond its intended limits. So, we really need that boost. So, okay, punch the nitro in. Bit of strain there.
There you go. Yep.
So you can spend threat on the pilot's check to inflict system strain on the vehicle, representing the character's haste or carelessness, because they really want to get that action. Whatever it is, their action that they're trying to perform. So like the strain threshold of a player character, the system strain represents the stress that the vehicle can tolerate before it overheats, breaks down, overloads, or generally ceases to function temporarily. So in game terms, the vehicle exceeds the strain threshold. The vehicle's speed drops down to 0 at the beginning of the following round. So you have a bit of time before the ship slows down or vehicle until the system strain is reduced to its system strain threshold or below. Its components cease functioning. So they're not compromised, but they stop functioning.
Same difference.
Same difference. When you're in the middle of combat, yeah, probably the same difference. But it might be easier if you manage to get out of it. It might not be as hard to, or as long or expensive to repair.
Right. And what's nice about that, and we'll go into this when we get into combat, you can only repair hull once during combat, but you can repair system strain more than once during combat. We'll go into more details about that later. So.
Well, that's it. And like a hull threshold, hull trauma, System strain is planetary scale, meaning 1 point of system strain equals 10 strain on a living being. So, but important to note is that unlike personal strain, system strain cannot be recovered by spending advantage. It can only be restored through actions taken by the crew or slowly over time.
I did not realize that. I read that today, and I did not realize that. I totally missed that.
Yep.
That's interesting, because you got to have that. Actually forces your other players in the group, right? If you're on a vehicle that has different stations, if you have 4 people on the vehicle, one of them should be repairing that system strain. If the pilot is doing his job or her job, stressing out the vehicle, getting away or catching up to somebody, doing that system strain, pushing it to the limit, you should have a engineer or whatever on there.
The co-pilot.
Keeping it healed. Yeah, co-pilot. Yeah.
Co-pilot manages some of those, so we can try to remove system strain. So there is a little sidebar about that. Who wants to read the sidebar then?
Oh, sidebar? Sure, I can do that. Yeah, so removing system strain. Any crew member can aid the vehicle in removing system strain by doing repairs and damage control, such as you're rebooting systems, bypassing fried circuits, flipping breakers, putting out electrical fires. That's going to be done during the damage control action on page 228. We'll go into all those too when we start talking about combat. Once we're doing our deeper drive. See, Tony? Still saying it. But vehicles can also recover system strain slowly over time, like player characters do. I was going to say players do. Well, that too, depending. Have you guys recovered? You recovered yet, Stefan, from me killing your character the other night?
No, because it compounds. Because I got 2 characters now, so it's even more difficult to recover.
That's true. You got. Just talk to me when you lose 4, like I have.
Yeah, because I've got one critical. I've got a critical strain hit.
Yeah. So, anyways, back to this. So, after every full day a vehicle spends without taking more system strain, you can reduce the system strain by 1. So, fixes itself apparently.
Yeah, or it just cools down.
Yeah. Well, alrighty then. Well, I'll go into the protection. So the types of protection we have for our vehicles, similar to what we have for personal protection in defense and armor. Basically, it says it here in generic terms, it's an amalgam of the maneuverability, the durability of its hull, strength of its shields, thickness of its armor. Some settings, it could be as simple as thick wood or metal plating. Others could be like reactive armor or diamond hard carbon panels or energy shields or something like that. So, when we're talking about defense, it's gonna it's the ability that it reflects the vehicle's ability to completely deflect or reduce the damage of incoming attacks through ambulative armor or shields. Point defense systems, illusory duplicates. Oh, mirror image, right?
Yeah.
And other technologies there. So it works the same as you would as it does for personal. So every point of defense, every rank in defense, I guess, you would add a setback die to any incoming attack roll made against a vehicle.
It's like a shield that a warrior would wield.
Yes, absolutely. And then you have armor, which is the second line of defense, and this will be reduced. Now, the armor, this acts as the vehicle's soak equivalent. And at defensive plating, you got a big tank. You got your defensive plating there that would soak a certain amount of damage points. And it would soak, and the vehicle's armor soaks a number of damage equal to the armor rating. Now remember, with vehicles, it's on a planetary scale. So that grenade that Tony's character may have thrown at the tank that did 15 points of damage, if my tank has an armor rating of 10, it's going to soak up 10 of those points. So for every point of vehicle armor, it's equivalent to 10 points of soak on a personal scale. Okay.
So that grenade would have had to have done 100 points of damage.
That grenade would have had to do
armor.
The tank. Well, if the tank has an armor of 1, the grenade would have had to do 20 points of damage.
Right.
To do 1 point of damage, hull damage.
Right. That's it.
So
I thought you were saying the tank has an armor rating of 10. Holy cats.
That's what I heard. That's what I understood.
Did I say 10? Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
but that's
No,
okay.
our armor rating of 1.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah, usually in Genesys, armor ratings don't go up to 10. Very rarely. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe, but
No, I think on the battleship it was maybe 4, maybe 5.
Yeah.
Something like that. So, all right. So that's protection.
yes, always good to have
Cool.
protection.
Yeah.
All right, so next we got, the other element that we have on our vehicles are vehicle weapons. So vehicle weapons, like the hull trauma, system strain, and the armor, are in the planetary scale. So they deal damage based on planetary scale. So if it gets a +1 damage to the base damage, that's done on planetary scale, and it's done just like a normal weapon. So for let's just say a vehicle mounted laser has a rating of 4, that's going to be 4 planetary scale damage, and it's going to do that base damage +1 for every uncancelled success, just like normal weapon damage.
Mm-hmm.
The critical hit ratings weapons have are going to be the same as they are on personal weapons. That's the number of advantage needed to activate critical.
Yeah.
And the ranges go into a little different thing here on personal scale versus planetary scale. So when we're dealing with planetary or personal scale, we have the range bands of engaged, short, medium, long, extreme. When we're dealing with planetary scale, we add another range band, and that's strategic range. And so it goes from engaged, short, medium, long, extreme, and strategic.
Yep. Yeah, think of strategic as being that non-line of sight cannons, something over the horizon, something that's out of sight.
Only through instrumentation, like sensors or whatever.
Intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Yeah.
Would you like to play a game?
And I forgot to mention on critical hits, and I probably should mention it, that if your roll generates enough advantage to generate multiple critical hits, just like with personal scale weapons, you're just going to add an additional +10 to the critical hit roll, not roll multiple crits.
Right.
And so just wanted to mention that because I had forgotten it.
And I did notice that they do make a distinction between a critical hit on a personal scale and a critical hit on a planetary scale. They're calling them critical hits when you're hitting vehicles, and it's critical injuries when you're hitting on a personal scale. So if you guys want to think about it that way, a little bit of terminology, I've seen it repeated here throughout these rules. So
it does have its own table.
Yeah, as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we have 2 last things about weapons, and they're important in that I'll go into the first one, which is the special qualities of weapons. Those are going to be the same ones that are in the personal weapons section of the book, which is in Chapter 5 of the equipment section of the Core Rulebook. They're all the same ones. Some only apply to certain things, obviously, but the special qualities are all listed there.
Right.
However, what's not listed there and what's listed right here on page 224 is firing arc. So every vehicle weapon entry is going to have this firing arc. And this is the direction or directions a weapon can be fired based on its mounting. They're specified in the individual profiles, and generally a narrative constraint rather than a hard mechanical limitation. It's just when the GM says, I'm sorry, he's in front of you and you want to use your rocket launcher, which is rear mounted, you're going to have to.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those times when the GM tells you no.
Yep. Unless it's mounted on a turret.
Yes.
And it can turn the 360. Yeah, that is more of a what do you call it? A narrative thing, the firing arc. Yeah, so yes, everybody, you will, if you would like to use the firing arcs in your game, you will have to keep track of facing and relative position of people. You need to know what starboard and port means.
No, you don't.
Aft and fore. Hey, that's what they have in here. Starboard and port. Remember, port has 4 letters in it, so it's left. That's the left side.
Yeah.
Starboard is a right because starboard has an R in it. So does port, but port is 4 letters.
Yeah, but 4 letters, just like the word left. Oh.
Wow, Chris.
Aft is, ass in your ass. Okay, so behind
after,
you.
It's after.
Right. And then 4 is
forward.
I don't know. It's in the forward. Right.
Yes.
See?
Forward direction. Moving forward. Gaily
forward. I had
to
say that because the arcs are port, starboard, aft, and fore. Got to know those, right? If you want to use
you're a gamer and you don't know what port and starboard are,
are
you really a gamer?
That's how
you should question yourself.
That's how I do remember starboard and port.
Yeah.
Port is left because it has 4 letters and so does left. So
yeah,
that's how I remember.
To me, port is just a sweet wine. So
nice.
But yeah, that's all our vehicle weapons and how they work.
Those are
when we use them.
Those characteristics. Yeah.
Yeah. When we use them, we go into combat. So we should probably do that.
Yep. Let's. All right. So now let's talk about planetary scale versus personal scale. Going a little bit more detail on that. So Stefan, yes, you said that this first line is incorrect. Vehicles are bigger than people. Well, not all of them, but most of them are.
Yes.
That tricycle you took out this morning, that would be smaller than you. I know.
Yeah, a little bit more. It didn't stand a chance against me, but
But the ones that they're talking about tend to move faster than people, have bigger weapons, and powerful, and weapons that are more powerful than maybe somebody can carry.
Yep.
Right. So they've created something called planetary scale as opposed to personal scale. And it's the same, like Tony had said, it's personal scale. That's all it is. It's engaged, short, medium, long, extreme range, but they've added the 6th range band, which is the strategic range that we're talking about. That operate on, like we said, a planetary scale, intercontinental ballistic missiles. If you guys would like to play a game, right? As an example. Over the horizon missiles, non-line of sight weapons, like your cannons, non-line of sight cannons, your battleships, fighting in World War II, they'd fire over the horizon.
That's it. Usually these kind of weapons will require advanced sensors or magnification technologies, as you mentioned.
Booster rockets.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Like I said, indirect fire with artillery ranges, and the difficulty to make a ranged combat check is going to be formidable. Going to be 5 purple.
Yeah.
To do it. So what do we have for planetary scale combat? I'll hand that over.
Well, when dealing with weapons and armor and hull trauma thresholds, every point is equal to 10 points of equivalent characteristic. like we talked before.
The personal scale, yep.
The base damage of a mount of 3 mounted on a helicopter is 3 points of damage when fired at another vehicle, but 30 points of damage when fired at a human.
Oh.
Conversely, human-sized weapons such as an assault rifle will need to do 10 points of damage to inflict any damage, to do 1 point of damage to the helicopter. And that's if it had no defense.
Mm-hmm.
So note to GMs, and this probably should be in bold here.
Yeah, it is.
Note to GMs, planetary scale weapons deal massive amounts of damage to people, to individuals. Most hits deal enough to far exceed a character's wound threshold, automatically incapacitating the target. However, you may feel this is insufficient to represent the power of these weapons, and I use this rule. This is an optional rule. So you may have the characters add 50 plus 50 to a resulting critical injury when they exceed their threshold.
Yeah.
Plus 50.
Yep.
That way,
Pink
if you roll 100
Auto.
plus
Yeah.
50, they are no more.
Yep.
They are snuffeth.
Dead. Pink
Yeah.
mist.
E.D.
Ashes.
Day. Dead.
Also, note that to avoid having weapons such as pistols deal critical hits to heavily armored combat craft, their damage must exceed a starship's armor before the shot can inflict a critical hit.
Yeah.
I would go one further than that. That it needs to exceed the ship's armor plus 10 damage. You need to at least do 1 hull point of damage to it. You think? Or just the armor?
Well, just the armor
You're
would
not
be
doing
enough.
hull. You're not doing but you're not doing hull damage at that point.
No,
you need
but
to
if you
exceed the armor. You need to so if a starship's armor, go back to the tank, right?
Yeah.
With our 1 armor, right? If you do 11 points of damage to it, you tell me that it takes 1 point of hull damage? No, you have to do 20 points of damage.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
In my opinion, yes. I know
Yeah.
that's not the way the rule reads.
It
no,
is.
that's it. So instead of maybe that bullet, maybe that's the way they're explaining it represents that once the bullet has exceeded the armor, it's inside, let's say, the tank's armor, but it's not doing hull
I
damage.
see
But
what
it
you
might hit. It's
Yeah.
still doing a critical hit to a component. Maybe the brake line is
Right.
hit. Now,
Or the pilot.
or the
driver.
pilot gets hit by.
Okay.
I don't know. That's maybe one reason they wrote it
That's
that way.
that's a good example there,
Yeah.
Stefan. You know what? I will. Yes. I
But
agree.
if you want to run it in your game where you have to actually exceed by,
I think it would be situational.
It
yeah.
should be. Like
Yeah.
if somebody's telling me, hey, I want to shoot at that helicopter coming towards me, but I'm going to shoot out the glass. I want to try and shoot the pilot.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, you
Yeah.
see that
Get
in
past-
movies a lot.
Just
you know?
exceed. Yep. Just exceed its armor. I'm fine with that. You know,
Yeah.
if you exceed the
it's
armor.
See the armor of by 1, and you sort of hit the fuel line, or and then it's that's when you see sometimes in movies people shooting with their handguns, but of course the helicopter itself is not seriously damaged, but something is very fragile in there, and suddenly the rotor is smoking because the bullet hit the coolant.
We're not
That's right.
using movies as an example here because I've seen
No.
80s action movies where somebody with a handheld machine gun freaking took out a freaking helicopter and it fucking exploded with 1 bullet.
Yeah, that could be maybe a bit more over the top, but you can, in a role-playing game, you might allow it to cause a critical hit. It's
Maybe.
no additional bonuses. It doesn't get plus 10 or plus 50, obviously, but
Right.
So I mentioned
know.
earlier, and the reason why Chris handed me this, I mentioned earlier that all the weapon qualities are found in Chapter 5. I stand corrected because there is one item quality that sits right here in the vehicle weapons section, and that is the personal scale. So if you have a vehicle mounted weapon with the item quality personal scale, that means it does personal scale damage. That's the machine gun on the side of a helicopter, or a grenade launcher on the top of an APC.
Armored personnel carrier, by the way, for those of you who don't know. But you're dorky gamers like us, so you know what the APC means.
Right. Most likely.
Just this like quality has the following rule, and this is in bold. The vehicle weapon's entire profile uses personal scale instead of planetary scale. That means its range, its critical hit table, because it uses the critical injury table, its damage, all of that.
Yeah, and it does not get plus 50 on the critical injury because it's not a massive weapon. It's a personal weapon.
If you hit somebody with it, correct.
Yeah, I know.
That's a good call out there, Stefan, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's more to vehicle combat. We need to get into it. Who wants to start with the types of vehicle combat?
Well, if you want to, Stefan, or you want me to take it?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, so in vehicle combat, we're going to have, there are two types, like Tony said. There's going to be small vehicle combat.
There's three.
And there's three. You're right. There's three. There's small vehicle combat, capital ship combat, and a mix between personal and vehicle combat. So let's get into these a little bit. Basically, so vehicle combat, you follow the same rules as regular combat, right? Everybody has a maneuver, an action, you roll initiative. But what we're going to be going over is what tweaks to those, what are they laying on top of the rules here for combat that are specific for vehicles. Okay. And then, so this first one is small vehicle combat. We're talking about tanks, fighter jets, personal spacecraft, riding your bike.
The attack walkers.
The attack walkers. Has a pilot. Will have one vehicle maneuver, and one vehicle action. Or you could do two vehicle maneuvers during each turn. Okay. And it's going to be pretty abstract, especially when you're doing like maybe dogfights with fighter planes. You're not going to really be keeping track of every what is it called? U-turn, barrel roll, whatever.
Yeah.
Unless you're into that thing, I don't know. Yeah. You could be using the. I actually played a Star Wars game, RPG game, with the X-Wing rules. So we were doing barrel rolls and all that, and we munged that together. That's a thought if you guys want to do that. That was pretty interesting to do. But just remember that the vehicles you're striving to get advantage, you're striving to move forward and get next to somebody. You really can't map all that out. So it is a little more abstract here. And then we just use skill checks, and then we add to the narrative. We just talk to the narrative there. Advantages, triumphs could be, I'm thinking the first thing that pops in my mind when I'm like, oh, that pilot just rolled a triumph would be Maverick in Top Gun putting on the brakes, gonna let them drive right by us, right? That'd be a triumph, or at least 3 advantage, right, on his piloting check, I would think. So that's small vehicle combat.
And then you've got the larger capital ship combat. Those are your battleships, ships of the line, whether it's space or on the water or underwater.
Yeah.
So by necessity, of course, still we abstract the combat, and then the number of crew involved as well, especially with large ships where dozens of people or hundreds. Everyone's doing something, but that doesn't mean they get a die roll or an action roll. So small vehicles in combat, capital ship like small vehicles. Capital ships can only perform one vehicle maneuver and one vehicle action, or two vehicle maneuvers during their turn, as they are directed by either the pilot or the captain. So along with the pilot, each additional crew member can use their personal action and maneuvers to crew weapons, operate sensors, move about the ship. This all happens, in the same round, subject to initiative order, just like personal combat. They say also something to remember concerning vehicle combat with capital ships is that each capital ship is likely to have hundreds or thousands of crew, like I just mentioned. So the GM and players do not track all of their initiative slots.
Boy, I'm glad they mentioned it. Bad they had that call out in here.
That's it. And the actions.
I so want to roll what, 1 million initiative checks for the stormtroopers on the Death Star.
Yeah. I run to take the turbo lift. Right. Fine.
5 years later, okay, we're on round 2.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, we forgot this one guy in the cafeteria. Damn. So instead you just focus on those individuals who are doing things that are pertinent to the encounter. Someone manning the shields or the guns and so forth. That's it. Someone wants to do some repairs. Fine, let's go.
There's a call out here, and if you're doing 2 capital ships against each other, if the players have obviously control of one, feel free to have a couple of friendly NPCs assisting. But the key is that you want each bank of weapons. So if you're looking at a broadside of weapons, to have one gunnery crew role. Engineering section is going to have one engineering role. Your command crew is going to have one command role, and your piloting crew is going to have one piloting role. And that's about as far as you need to go. And
you can have your characters, the PCs, in each of those sections, leading them. Right? You have your gunners as the top gunner, right? Making your PCs roll, right, for gunnery, but you give them a boost die or two because of the crew that's there.
Representing sensors or whatever. Scotty is the leader of the engineer. Of course, Kirk is the command. And
what are you talking about there, Stefan? As you were reading that, Stefan, through the capital ship combat, I was just thinking about just how well this goes with boarding actions, where you can have in the same combat, you can be boarding another ship, doing regular personal combat, moving to one room, taking over engineering. Yet at the same time, you could still have those capital ships firing on each other.
Oh yeah,
and that gets me to the third and final type of combat, which is mixed personal and vehicle combat. Segue, man.
Yes.
Sometimes characters might engage vehicles despite being on foot. The battle might contain armor and infantry elements, or characters on foot might even be pursued by enemies in small vehicles such as motorcycles or horses. And in this case, your boarding actions would be included in the small unit personal scale combat going on same time as vehicle scale. Although foot soldiers generally do not appreciate fighting tanks, they do have one advantage. They are harder to hit. As smaller targets, they are harder to hit, whereas infantry can hit tanks much easier.
That's right.
The difficulty for combat checks is based on range. Smaller individuals will get bonuses based on their silhouette to hit larger foes. And, of course, larger foes will have difficulty hitting smaller foes based on their silhouette.
Yep.
So everything plays out normally. Both initiatives are rolled. You say you've got this capital ship battle going on, and your characters are on a small shuttle. So you've got this huge capital ship battle in, say, a setting with space and laser swords and
and space wizards.
So you've got these two big capital ships blasting away at each other. Characters are on a shuttle. They have some small vehicle combat as they go against some enemy fighters, and they're trying to board that other enemy capital ship. You got the capital ship combat going on. You got the small vehicle combat going on. And when they land inside the hangar, hopefully with their shuttle intact,
That's right.
Roughly.
of the enemy ship, now you have personal scale going on. And you can have all three going on at once.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
Yep.
Yes, you can.
Exactly.
Yes, you can. So, do we want to call out the sidebar here? Pilot only
Yes.
maneuvers and actions first before we move on? Okay, yeah, let's
We
do
can
that.
do that.
There are some good nuggets in this, by the way.
Yeah.
There really is.
The key thing is that we're going to go into the list. We're not going to dial into each and every one and what it does, but we're going to go through the list of maneuvers and actions. And there's a sidebar that tells you what Chris wants to say.
Yeah. So, so there are going to be maneuvers and actions specified as pilot only. Okay. Those are ones that affect the current speed and positioning of the vehicle. All right. So each vehicle is limited to how swiftly it can move. Therefore, maneuvers and actions are limited. And then we'll go into those. Like, hey, if you're going at speed 4+, you can only do this maneuver, right? Or action. Now, this is pretty key here. A vehicle can benefit from only one pilot-only action per round. That's important. That's very important. Even though you have a co-pilot, okay,
Yeah.
you can only benefit from one pilot-only action per round. Okay. The vehicle can benefit from one pilot-only maneuver per round. It can benefit from a second pilot-only maneuver if it suffers 2 system strain. And if the vehicle has a single pilot, the pilot must also suffer 2 strain to perform 2 maneuvers, just like your regular combat rules. Again, we're layering on top of the regular combat these vehicle rules. So if you want to take 2 maneuvers and an action in a round, you know you have to spend 2 strain. But if you're in a vehicle, the vehicle has to take that 2 strain as well.
But if you have a co-pilot,
Talk to that.
yeah,
Tony.
so if you have, they can, in case of 2 different pilots, each can perform a pilot-only maneuver, but the ship still suffers that system strain.
Yep.
Or the vehicle still suffers that system strain.
Right. And your pilots don't, because
No,
they're
exactly.
sharing the stress, but the vehicle is still being stressed out.
Right on.
Yep.
Yep.
That's good. Yeah. So again, you got to keep these things and keep, these rules as we're going through them. They're just kind of added to what's already been introduced in the core rules here.
That's it.
So
Now, before we list off the maneuvers, I would like to just say that each maneuver has a description to it.
Yes.
And it's specific. Each maneuver and action is going to tell you 3 things. Well, besides the narrative part of it all, it's going to tell you, is it pilot only, yes or no?
Mhm.
What silhouette vehicles can do it?
Yes.
And what current speed that you're going, because there are some maneuvers and actions that you cannot take if you're not
going fast enough. Right.
Mhm.
So, Stefan, what do we got for maneuvers?
All right, there's quite a few. The first one is, of course, to punch it. Basically, you're gunning it, pressing on the gas, firing the afterburners, so accelerating. And so you're increasing your vehicle's current speed by 1 or more up to the maximum of the vehicle's maximum speed. And then your vehicle will suffer system strain equal to the speed increase -1 to a minimum of 0. So if you're only going from speed 3 to speed 4, you're only increasing it by 1. -1 is 0. You're not pushing it that hard. But if you're going from speed 2 all the way to speed 5, then you're going to take a bit of strain. So that's difference of 3 minus 1, 2 points.
Nice.
Because you're definitely punching it a little harder, the pedal to the metal.
And then, of course, the inverse of that is
Right.
decelerate. which
Right.
works the same way.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And
So
any silhouette can do it. You can be at any current speed.
Yeah.
And it is a pilot only maneuver. So we'll want to call
Whereas-
those out when we.
Whereas
Oh, yeah,
deceleration, you
Mhm.
have to be going at least one speed to
Well, that's it.
decelerate.
decelerate. If you're at 0, you're not going anywhere. You're not.
Well, really, you'll be reversing, right? When you be
yeah.
No,
when you reverse far
No.
enough, you.
It's still speed.
no,
You're still
you're just
moving.
accelerating speed
Oh,
1 in reverse.
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. All right.
And that is also, of course, pilot only. Any silhouette can decelerate, of course, and like you said, at least a speed of 1 or higher.
Gotcha. All right.
And we have
What else
brace
do we
for impact. Then we have brace for impact. Also,
Are we alternating these, or are you going to do those?
oh no,
we wanna
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. Brace for impact. Pilot only. Any silhouette can do it, and you can be at any speed when you do it. So the pilot uses this maneuver once per round to position the vehicle to minimize the incoming damage. So until the beginning of the pilot's next turn, whenever it's dealt damage, you can have the pilot can have the vehicle suffer system strain up to its silhouette rating to soak up that amount of damage to a minimum of 0, to reduce the damage it suffers by that amount. And then additionally, until the beginning of the pilot's next turn, whenever the vehicle suffers a critical hit, you can also suffer system strain up to its silhouette to reduce the critical hit result by 10 per point of strain you spend this way, to a minimum of 0. And then if the result is reduced by 0, the critical hit is canceled. So again, like Tony had mentioned earlier, called out, if you do reduce that critical hit result to 0 or more, you don't suffer the critical hit. As opposed to critical injuries, a lot of those talents will reduce it to 1, so you still at least take a critical hit, or a critical injury, I should say. So that's brace for impact.
Very good.
What else we got there, Stefan? What's the next one?
The next one is evade. Pilot only still. It has to be silhouette from 0 to 4. Nothing bigger.
Man.
I
can't be evading. I can't be evading in my aircraft carrier.
Not very well. No,
Bummer.
no. And you have to be going pretty fast at speed 3 or higher.
Cool.
So your little bicycle, even though you're only silhouette 1, might not be able to evade. if you're not going fast enough. Once per round, the pilot may perform the maneuver to dodge incoming fire. So until the beginning of the pilot's next turn, any attacks made against the vehicle is upgraded once. So by the characters in the vehicle. So anyone aboard the other vehicle trying to hit you, they get their attacks upgraded.
Nice.
Gotcha.
Last we have reposition.
Hmm?
Reposition is, again, pilot only, silhouette, any and current speed 1 or better, because you have to be moving to move. The pilot may move the vehicle 1 range band. This would indicate, you're avoiding obstacles, you're veering back and forth, you're moving, you're closing and widening the distance in a chase, or otherwise you're just minor shifting in environment. And this is one where if you're going to be keeping watch of your relative positioning, reposition comes into effect. So, I'm going speed 3 and my opponent's going speed 3 and we're at engaged range and I take the reposition maneuver to go above him. So
Passive,
I'm going
yeah.
up, and you just want to keep track of that somehow. I usually just keep notes with a little 3x5 card.
Yep.
And so where you are, if it's a 2-dimensional battle or 3-dimensional battle, it's important to use reposition.
It is.
So, and
I know
we
if
get
you
into
guys,
our
if you guys,
actions.
Yeah, and what if you guys had listened to the our last episode, the actual play for the Speed Buggy Invitational 2021, I built the reposition. I reflavored it into a competitive driving check that everybody made at their first time, and that repositioned people. Whoever won, would be in first place, second place, third place. So I kind of took this out for everybody to do. Just, you're going to be doing this because you're racing. Yeah, that's effectively what this is. Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone's trying to get the advantage of being at first.
Yep. So let's go into actions.
Those were the maneuvers.
Yep, those were maneuvers. So now we got actions. And again, we have pilot-only actions, silhouette, and we do have a speed requirement to perform these actions. Let's see. That let me see. So there is a sidebar here that says on page 101, any of the actions listed during combat encounters can also be done during vehicle combat, but they have to make sense, right? Those. So the first one here is dangerous driving. This is a pilot-only pilot-only action. Any silhouette can do it, but you have to be going speed 1 or more. So basically, you attempt to control the vehicle as it takes a sharp turn, go through a series of narrowly placed obstacles, or perform an improbable feat of awesomeness, right? When you're driving.
Through an asteroid field.
Through an asteroid field, that's right. And when you take the dangerous driving action, you make a piloting check with a difficulty equal to the silhouette of the vehicle. And remember, the current speed of the vehicle matters, because if you're going speed 3 or 4, you're going to upgrade this piloting check once. If you're going speed 5 or more, it's going to be upgraded twice. Okay? Yeah. So that is that. And this would be the difficulty you would use as a GM to say, hey, you need to make a piloting check to avoid this obstacle. Use this as a guideline here, because I've been trying to figure out where the hell do you set that difficulty. But the difficulty is the silhouette of the vehicle. And then if you're going speed, it's more difficult. You add the red. So, and then there's the sidebar, because we are talking about dangerous driving in narrative encounters. If you want to try if they want to create some sort of crazy ass difficult trick, just have them make a check. If you're more in a narrative thing, just make them make this check with this difficulty, and then then you can narrate it what happens. So next one. Let's take the next one.
Go ahead, Stephen.
All right. The next one is Blanket Barrage. So it is not just pilot only. Well, pilots can take it. Other characters can. It has to be very large ships of silhouette 5 or more. And usually not going too fast. Speed 0 to 3. Or stationary, meaning. So the gunner uses the ship's weapons to raise a curtain of fire around the ship, protecting it from smaller vehicles. All guns are firing. Small vehicles attempting to attack an attack run will have to brave a hurricane of heavy weaponry. So this action can speed up combat when your vehicle has lots and lots of guns. There's a blanket barrage. So while performing that, they'll make an average gunnery check and select all the weapons of a single type. So if it has quad turbo lasers and regular turbo lasers, well, you choose one or the other. And then they have to share, of course, a firing arc. So those weapons count as firing for that round. At least a minimum of 2 weapons. And it cannot be used if there are not 2 weapons of a single type. So game effect is that until the end of the next turn, all vehicles of silhouette 4 or smaller upgrade the difficulty of any combat checks made against the character's vehicle. So the one who made the guttering check. And plus 1 additional time, which means another upgrade per 2 advantage generated on the check. And if their combat check generates threat, well, then they suffer an automatic hit, which deals half the base damage of the, let's say, small vehicle coming in. Is that what I'm reading it right? If their combat generates threat, they suffer 1 automatic hit, deals half the base damage of the type of weapon used in the blanket barrage. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So those quad turbo lasers maybe would be half the damage that they suffer.
Yep. And
then if the combat generates, of course, despair, they suffer an automatic hit dealing full damage. So having more fun, the GM can have more fun with that.
Exactly.
And at your discretion, the blanket barrage might not cover all arcs. So some lines might be open for attack.
Okay. Now we also have concentrated barrage. So you get your blanket, now you get your concentrated barrage. Again, not pilot only, and it's for silhouette 5 or higher vehicles, and speeds 0 to 3. And this is where the gunner directs the fire to focus on a precise point in the opponent's hull. Focusing fire in this way has the potential to deal significant damage. So this is when you're targeting those enemy shield generators or targeting the engines. Mm-hmm. This action also speeds up combat when your vehicle has lots of guns. When performing the concentrated barrage action, the character selects all weapons of a single type, such as the 24-pounder cannons on a seagoing craft, or the railguns aboard starship, that share a firing arc. This requires 2 or more, at least 2 weapons to use. And it cannot be used if there are not 2 weapons of a single type to share the firing arc. Although the character is firing multiple weapons, the character makes a single combat check as per the rules for the perform combat check vehicle's weapon action, blah, blah, blah. If the attack succeeds, you may spend 1 advantage to add damage equal to the number of weapons involved.
And you can only add that once, it says.
Yeah.
That's cool.
To 1 hit of the attack. No,
yeah, so if you
just spend advantage
once
to add damage equal to the number of weapons involved in the attack to 1 hit of the attack.
Right. So if you're firing 12 of those 24-pounders on the port side of your ship.
You almost said right.
I almost did. Well, that would be left, by the way. Just to let you know. You would add 12 damage to that attack, to that roll.
Yep.
Wow.
And then you could spend your advantage on any other things that are usable, including if that weapon had a linked quality, you could still spend more advantage to activate linked and do more damage.
To do another. What is it? Is linked is like your base damage, right?
Yes.
The weapon's base damage like a second time,
Another time, right. But you wouldn't be adding that 12 damage to all the weapons. You only do that once per attack.
Once to that attack.
That attack, yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And the last line is very important too, Tony.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very important.
That is that the concentrated barrage action can only be used to target vehicles with a silhouette 5 or higher. You can't use it to target little guys. You can't target that.
Or that little while Stefan is riding his tricycle. No, you can't target him.
No, right? not with focused, not with concentrated barrage. You can blanket the barrage.
Not with my 24-pound guns. Nope.
There you go. That's right. All right. So let's see. So our next one here is damage control, which we had mentioned before when we were talking about hull trauma and system strain. This is not a pilot-only maneuver. Or action, I should say. Any silhouette, you can be going any speed on it while you're doing a damage control. basically this is taking that action to repair system strain or hull trauma. Now remember, you can only repair hull trauma once per combat, but you can repair system strain as many times as you want. And it goes into the same difficulties as healing using the medicine check. If your hull trauma is less, or your strain is less than half the strain, your threshold, it's an easy check. If it's equal to or more than half, it's average, and then if it's exceeding the threshold, it's a hard check. Okay, and of course, every hull trauma or system strain is healed once per uncanceled success. And you have those talents, like, can't remember what the exact name is it, but it's kind of like Surgeon, where you can add for every talent, or for every rank of the talent, you can add another heal of a system strain or hull trauma to those checks, mechanics checks. And this is a mechanics check. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Let's see. You can also use this action to repair the critical hits that a vehicle is suffering from. Okay. And again, it's the difficulty of the critical hit when it's listed in the severity column of the critical hit table. And you can repair critical hits multiple times. You can try and repair it multiple times until it is repaired.
Right.
So a lot of the critical hit those critical hit results is this effect is happening until the critical hit is repaired. So you'll want to get on those. So, all right. So that's damage control.
And I just want to call out again. We said it before, but it's key to remember that this right here, the damage control action, is where it tells you in the rules that the hull trauma can only be healed once during an encounter. This is where that rule lies that we mentioned before.
Yep. This is where it is.
Where it sits. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Tony. Mm-hmm. All right. Next action is?
Next action is Gain the Advantage. So this one is a pilot-only action, applicable for silhouettes of 1 to 4, but you have to be fast. So speed 4 or more.
Dogfight.
Yeah.
Darn it.
So fighter pilots.
Can't be gaining the advantage with my freaking aircraft carrier, damn it.
No. Not much use on my tricycle either. So.
My Mandalorian on his jetpack can do it because he's going speed 4, yo.
There we go.
Man, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, this is the way.
See him hit a wall. Pink Mandalorian missed.
So this of course, this action reflects frantics, give and take, dogfighting, to and fro, up and down, weaving of the vehicles, and allows the pilot to try and gain the upper hand against a single enemy, to try and set up that attack of their own. So to execute this action, the pilot has to choose one enemy, an enemy vehicle, and make a driving or piloting check. The difficulty will be determined by the relative speed of both vehicles involved. So it's the table on page 229, table 3.2-18, speed, advantage, difficulty. So depending on how fast each one is going. So if the pilot succeeds, they gain the advantage. While the pilot has that advantage, they can upgrade their ability of all their combat checks made from the pilot's vehicle, not just the pilot, but the vehicle is also, the co-pilot could gain a gunnery upgrade to his skill against the vehicle twice. And then upgrade the difficulty of all combat checks made by the target vehicle against the pilot's vehicle twice as well.
Okay.
Yeah, birds.
And there's a handy chart there, the speed advantage difficulty chart. Now, also on that page, on page 229, we have a chart, and it's discussed over on page 230, and that is the next action, and that is additional vehicle actions. There's a long list. I'm not going to go into detail on them. They use a plethora of skills. The chart, which is table 3.2-17, additional vehicle actions, tells you what the action is, what skill and what difficulty it can be. And some of them will have multiple skills you can use. And then it'll tell you what the effects of success and how advantage and threat can be used, and how setback dice and boost dice can be applied to it.
Boost dice.
I do have a little go back though. We need to talk about gaining advantage just a little bit more. Okay.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So the table. So if our two vehicles are going at the same speed, the difficulty is easy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If that vehicle wants to turn the advantage on them, okay, the opponent may want to cancel out to gain the advantage. It works as described. You look up the difficulty, what the previous check was, but you need to increase the difficulty by 1 for them to do it. Okay, so it's harder to maneuver to get on an opponent's tail than them to be already if they're already on it. So
right, yeah, because there was an additional paragraph on the other page. That's what we missed.
There is. Yep. Underneath it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So you're going to constantly increase that difficulty. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
Good call out, homie.
You're welcome.
Right.
You're welcome. So back to the additional vehicle actions.
Yeah, the additional vehicle actions include, but are not limited to, because I'm sure there's more that you can add to this. There's plot course, co-pilot, jamming, boost defenses, manual repairs, fire discipline, scan the enemy, hack enemy systems, and intercept projectiles. Those are all listed there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, these are cool.
Definitely.
All right, what's the last one of the vehicle actions, Mr. Holmes?
Oh, let's see. What do we have? Oh,
So there's two of them, no?
There are 2 of them? No, there's one of them. There's just one.
Okay.
Performing a combat check with a vehicle weapon.
Oh, right. Gotcha.
So it's not pilot only, but pilots can fire the weapons if they want to. Silhouette, any silhouette can do it, and you can be going at any speed doing this. So it's on page 101. It's basically the same. You go through the same steps as you would the combat check action, but there are some subtle differences. Okay. Each weapon on a vehicle can only be fired once per round. Okay. As we mentioned earlier about firing arcs, you can only be targets must be within the firing arc of a weapon. And then, like I said, you got to kind of keep track of like the relative position of the vehicles and such. What I've done with this is I've actually allow you to shoot into an adjacent firing arc. Depending on the situation, either you're adding a setback die or increasing the difficulty, because you're right at the edge. You know what I mean? Sometimes I do it when it feels right. I would increase the difficulty of that check if they wanted to try. That's just my own personal one. That's not an official rule. So again, the attack difficulty is still based on a range to target. And then remember that 6th range band of strategic, which is going to be formidable check. It's going to be 5 difficulty. And then vehicles do have a wide range of silhouettes here. So if you are 2 silhouettes smaller than the target vehicle, you'll get that boost die. And if you're firing on a vehicle that is 2 smaller than you, you'll get a setback die. And again, those size different rules, you'll use those on page 109. Most weapons deal damage on a planetary scale, which is 10 times the damage listed on a personal scale. Okay. When they suffer damage, you're going to reduce the damage by its armor to a minimum of 1. Any remaining damage is applied to the hull trauma.
To a minimum of 0.
To a minimum of 0. Sorry, to a minimum of 0. Any remaining damage is applied to the hull vehicle as hull trauma. And again, armor does reduce personal scale damage by 10 times its rating. Okay. So I think that was it, right? That was for the actions that we can perform.
Mm-hmm.
The combat check is the last action there.
Yeah. So. Now the last things we need to discuss. We have two things to discuss here. Stefan, if you want to take the critical hits, or do you want to take the vehicle components?
I'll take the vehicle components.
Okay. So critical hits. Vehicle critical hits don't suffer critical injuries. Instead, they suffer critical hits due to advantage or triumphs on attacks or collisions. When an attack generates a critical hit, the attacker must roll on the critical hit result and look at the table on page 230 or in your GM screen if you happen to have it, and compare it, and then that'll tell you what happens. And a lot of those mention vehicle components, and those are listed in the sidebar on page 221 that Stefan's going to go over. But what I want to note here is that once a vehicle suffers a critical hit, it counts as suffering the critical hit until it is repaired. The status counts even if the effects of the critical hit only last a single round. That crit will be there until it is repaired. And each additional critical hit, just like critical injuries, will increase the roll by 10 plus 10 for the next vehicle critical hit. So if your vehicle has 2 critical hits, the next time they suffer a critical hit, they will be rolling plus 20 to that roll.
And speaking of that, before you go on, speaking of adding to the critical hit results, there's a weapon quality called Vicious that does not apply to critical hits on vehicles.
Nope.
Okay, it only applies to critical injuries. Okay.
Yep, now, because it says so in the description of Vicious that it applies to the critical injury table.
Correct. And if there are effects that apply to critical hits, they don't apply to critical injuries. So, like again, and that's why I wanted to call out the difference between a critical hit and a critical injury. Critical injury is versus on a personal scale. Critical hits are on a vehicle scale. So that's subtle, but it's important. Yeah. So just wanted to point that out there, Tony, as we were talking about.
And the last paragraph here points out that what Chris was trying to explain earlier, and that is that remember that an attack must inflict damage for the attacker to activate a critical hit. Oh. So because vehicles operate on planetary scale for damage, a hit from a personal scale weapon must inflict at least 10 points of damage, or 1 planetary scale, after reductions for armor, for the attacker to be able to inflict a critical hit.
Right. And I think they left that little bit out when we were talking about it above in the armor section, or whatever it was. When a critical hit, they said you have to, in order for that pistol to do a critical hit, you have to get past its armor. Yeah. I think what they mean, you need to at least do a point of damage, hull damage. To it. So okay.
And and like I said, on the critical hit table, many of the results, basically results from on a percentile dice, D100, 37 through 138, will reference the vehicle components chart or sidebar on page 221.
Yeah.
Right. So let's go into that there, Stefan.
All right. And just as to go over like maybe a Vicious, one reason maybe they figured they don't have to add Vicious. If a cannon on a tank is doing damage on a person, it does 5 damage. That's 50 damage to a person. There's no need to make it Vicious anyway. So.
It's 50.
Yeah. Well, and how many people are really surgical? Do you really have to be surgical with that freaking 155 cannon?
No, exactly.
55 millimeter cannon? No, don't think so.
No, that's it. Close enough counts. Kaboom! There.
Exactly. All right. What kind of vehicle components do we have? Because these are kind of neat.
Yeah. So most vehicles have a number of components to make them function. These can be damaged, of course. So we have
brakes. So if a vehicle brakes are compromised, it cannot perform the decelerate maneuver.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
But it's certainly, if it's going down a hill, it's going to be making the acceleration maneuver, whether you wanted to or not.
No, exactly. Or if you want to try to avoid hitting that wall, you're going to have to rely on momentum or lack thereof. But so the vehicle can still coast to a stop. There you go. Over a long distance, or stop by colliding with something. There you go.
Like that wall Stefan just mentioned.
Yeah. Or there's a fire hydrant right there. Bang. There.
I'd say in this case, just use your common sense.
Yeah, exactly. Defenses can be compromised as well. So and reduced all the way down to 0. So no shields, no fancy ablative armor, and then hull can be compromised. So there's no more armor. A vehicle's navigation systems can be compromised, whatever that is, sensors, etc., radar, and it usually means that its handling becomes -3 unless it's already lower.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Won't have to worry about it. I won't have to worry about it in my aircraft carrier if my navigation gets compromised. My handling's already -3.
That's it. So, and of course, though, you still have propulsion that can take many forms. If its propulsion is compromised, of course, the pilot cannot perform any accelerate maneuvers, and its current speed drops by 1 each round down to a minimum of 0.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
That's an interesting, subtle thing to remember.
Yeah. So you decelerate a little bit faster than if you just lose your brakes.
Yeah, and I would do that at the end of the round.
Yeah.
I would think, at the end of the round, not necessarily at the end of like the pilot's turn. Just do it at the end of the round. Boom, your speed's now down to by 1, maybe.
Exactly. Because it's beyond his control anyway. So just at the end of the round, the pilot can still try to avoid obstacles as the vehicle slows down. And of course, then there's weapons that are a component. They can be damaged. So some vehicles, especially when they're armed with 1 or more, you might have to use your judgment on which ones are damaged, if it makes sense. A large ship might not have all its weapons compromised in one shot, but it might lose some of them. Mm-hmm. And then it talks about repairing real quick. Repairing components requires a mechanics check. Often the difficulty is determined by the severity of the critical hit. Otherwise, it should be average or hard at yours or the GM's discretion. These are the most common components. If there's other components on your vehicle, well, there you go. You can add them.
Nice. Well,
and maybe if one component is already damaged, like brakes, you can maybe look at the table and see if something else closer would fit. If it's makes sense.
Or your brakes are really fucked.
Yeah. They seize up.
Exactly.
So, gentlemen, I think this is a great breaking point where we're going to break off the vehicle rules. Next time, not next episode, but the next month, when we dig into part 2, we'll go through some sample vehicle profiles, and then we'll get into vehicle crafting.
Ooh.
Vehicle creation.
We gonna have something ourselves make up one? Craft.
We might have to do a build off.
We might have to, but the thing is, there are 3 types of vehicles we can do: ground, air, land. Oh, actually 4. Right. Ground, air, land, sea, space. Yeah.
I say before we do that, we pick one. We each pick one type that we're gonna do. And we're going to build it, and we're going to flesh out something from pop culture.
Oh, that's cool. Now, do we want to do that in the show, during the show, or do we want to do that ahead of time and then present it during the show? Because I know we want to do it ahead of time.
Research. Yeah.
Oh, and you can make yours really good and blow us away. I understand.
Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
All right, so
we'll look
next
forward to
time,
that, everybody. Sure.
we'll mince words over who gets what, and we'll figure it out. But until then, let's go Advantageous Threats.
All right, welcome to part 3 of the show, Advantageous Threats. This is where we build, roll, and narrate the die result of some sample skills for our entertainment and hopefully yours. And this week, Chris will be running us through a little scenario.
Yeah.
What have you got cooked up? What have you got cooked up today?
That's awesome. It's apparently I have been I was what was that term that we were using? Voluntold by Tony. Got to create something for Advantageous Threats because you're the man about the vehicles because I ran that last actual play. So if you guys have not listened to the previous actual play, pause this recording, go listen to it, then come back because there is a spoiler.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pause.
That's awesome.
Okay. Glad you enjoyed the previous episode. That's awesome. Welcome back. So our scenario is this. Space Ghost is is getting his reward. Crowds are going kind of wild. Velma Dinkley went to go get drinks for Jabberjaw and him. And Jabberjaw's like, where is she? Well, he saw her being taken by Lokar into his supervillain van. And Quick Draw McGraw is there with Snagglepuss. His boy Snagglepuss turns, dips Snagglepuss, gives him a big old kiss saying, I'll be back, partner. Then looks at Jabberjaw saying, well, come on, big guy. Let's go get your girl. As the two jump up into
big guy. Let's get your girl.
That's right. As the two jump up into the nearest healthy speed buggy, have to say that because if you just listen to that episode, you're fucking not getting in Jabberjaws. That's for sure.
Well, I'll just put this here axle down.
Exactly. All right. So, just narratively speaking, here we're at about medium range from each other.
Okay.
I've hopped in my van. You've hopped in your speed buggy.
So we're both in the same speed buggy?
Yes. Yeah.
All
You're
right.
riding pistol.
I'm riding shotgun.
Probably. Or Jabberjaw is.
No. I don't see no shotgun. All right.
All right. Well, first off, let's roll initiative.
All right.
Okay.
If you guys remember how to do that, let's do vigilance. Let's just do vigilance.
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 Woo. 2
yellow for me. I got a 2 and 2 for me. How about you guys?
4.0.
I got a 3.2.
Okay, this is going to be easy then. You 2, then me.
There we go.
So, all right.
Go ahead.
Starting off at speed, by the way. Starting off at speed 0, by the way. And keep track of your current speed, please.
Okay,
right.
And the speed buggy has a maximum speed of
3.
Yeah, it's underneath. I did put the stats for that after Quick Draw McGraw's stat block, by the way. I should actually put it towards yours.
I see.
That's all right. So
you know what? Let's talk about that. What vehicles are we running? Speed buggy stat block. What do I have for that, bud?
So the speed buggy is a Silhouette 2 vehicle that has a max speed of 3, a handling of 1, a hull trauma of 10, and a system strain of 10.
And remember that handling of 1 because nobody fucking used it in the actual play.
No.
And I did not remind you. So
now we just freaking
only halfway through,
left and right.
Now
only have one roll.
Now Lokar's, Lokar, by the way, king of the killer locusts. has a van that looks like a fucking locust. Has a silhouette of 3, speed of 3, handling of -1, no armor on it because it's a fucking bug, a bug van. Hull trauma 10, strain of 10 as well. Basically, I use the pickup truck
Right.
from the expanded player's guide and reduce its handling by 1 because it's the shape of a freaking bug. I'm pretty sure it's a little more.
Probably
Anyway.
gives a boost. Probably gives a boost to intimidate.
Well, if I'm going to intimidate with it.
Yeah.
All right. So basically, you guys are first. Speed at 0.
I think I need to accelerate for my maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to accelerate up because he's got my goil. I'm going to accelerate up to speed 3.
Okay.
go.
So you take 2 system strain.
Mm-hmm. And I've got that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my maneuver. Now for my
Action.
Which would
I'd like to try to reposition, maybe getting a little closer.
Okay. So you're going to trade that action for a maneuver and use a reposition maneuver. Okay. So you do. You move to short range. So you move 1 range band, which puts you short range to me. And then what are you doing? Is that all you're doing?
That is all I am doing.
Okay. Quick draw. You get the next slot. What do you want to do? You're at short range from this.
Short range. So yeah. I'll try to take out the tires.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah. So quick. He does a quick draw, of course. Pistols in both hands.
Awesome.
Yeah. And we'll do the quick strike to hit the. Basically, I'm aiming, but
You are
to hit
going
a specific. Well, yeah,
Yep.
I'm
setbacks.
aiming for. That's it. I'm aiming for a specific part.
Aiming for the tires. Yep.
That's it. So I'll double aim. So it'll take 2 strain and reduce to 1 setback.
Yep.
Hit the tires, and we got a shooting range combat of 4. That's based on agility of 4 as well. There you go. So there. Difficulty, you said short range
Mm-hmm.
is 2, I believe. Oh, 1.
Short
sorry.
range is 1.
Right. So I got 4 yellow, a purple, and a black.
Why don't you upgrade that
Yeah.
to put a 3rd story point on your side? So 3 story points on your side, 0 on mine right now.
That's it. And I did get the other talent, sucker for a pink cougar. So I had 2 boost dice to my next check after kissing Snugglepuss.
Yes.
And he's
you are a sucker for a pink cougar.
yes. And since Rokar hasn't acted yet in combat, I can add 2 more boost dice for my quick draw.
Yep.
Quick strike, I mean.
Holy.
Don't forget accurate.
Does it have accurate?
I'm pretty sure
yes, it
I
is.
put accurate on them. Yeah.
Accurate. So another boost dice. Forgot the stat.
Stefan, exactly how many boost dice have you hoarded over there?
I have 5 boost dice now.
Maybe I should have put armor 1 on the van.
Maybe.
I have armor 0 right now. You know what? This might be a really short advantageous threats, everybody. We'll see how well he does.
Well, even with armor 1, maybe the tires, since I'm aiming at a tires, the armor might not have.
No, it doesn't have any
but-
armor. That's all I'm
Right.
saying.
Right,
It
I
doesn't
know.
have any armor.
All right, let's go roll it.
Okay.
I'm not even bothering upgrading on my own. The setback came out blank, so
Power.
that's good. Yeah, I know.
Despair?
So, yeah.
Did you roll despair?
No despairs. The red dice came out 2 threat, but cancels out 2 advantage. That's all. And I end up with 5 successes
Mhm.
and 3 advantage.
Oh.
Yeah.
which
So
means
in a total of 11 damage.
Which does 1 hull trauma to me.
Yeah. With my lucky strike, I can spend my story point now to add my cunning to the damage, which is 3.
It doesn't matter. You need to do at least do at least 10 more. You need to do at least 9 more damage, so I wouldn't worry about it. But you can spend that advantage to critically take out his tires.
Yes. Maybe you got that. That's part of maybe not the propulsion, but at least it's.
No, I'm gonna say that. Okay. So let's see. So we're gonna say that his handling just went up by 1. Sorry, down by 1.
Yeah.
His max speed went down by 1 as well. Okay.
That could be good.
That sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, that would be the crit, since I was aiming at a specific item. It's a rolling percentage.
Aren't tires just navigation equipment? So wouldn't just it be like saying
just the handling?
His navigation is compromised, so minus his handling becomes -3.
Perfect. Yeah. Well done, dude.
Even simpler, yeah.
It wasn't -1, but it is at current is -3.
There we go.
Well done. Well done, Tony. Thank you. Okay.
Should be easier to catch up now, Deborah Joel.
Well.
Oh yeah, we're gonna catch him now.
So technically, because he's adversary 2, your next check to shoot at his vehicle. Now that he's in it and he's gonna now start driving it, I'm gonna upgrade those shooting checks onto him. Maybe. What do you think? Would that be?
It's an adversary's vehicle.
All
combat checks, including vehicle combat checks versus him, should be upgraded.
It should be. But you've already rolled. You've taken me down just a little bit.
Right.
But let me go ahead and make my driving check. No, my driving check. I'm not doing a driving check. I am going to suffer strain. I'm just going to peel out of here. I'm going to take 2 strain to go up to that speed 3. Okay. I am going to use that maneuver to pull away from you to move a what do you call it?
Reposition, move 1 range band.
Move render. So I'm at medium. Now, when you get to engaged range, that's when we'll say the chase is over, or leave it as a cliffhanger. I don't know. Something like that. Okay. So we're back at medium range.
Okay.
So that's all I do. What kind of? Hang on a minute. I might push it here. Oh yeah. You know what? I'm gonna spend a So I can only do 1 action per round, which was to take another maneuver. Okay.
Your maximum cap out at 2 maneuvers.
I do cap, but can I spend? Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do an action then to summon a swarm of locusts up to long range and spend a maneuver to concentrate, keeping them in a fight with the following stats. Alrighty then. So as you see him get into his killer locust van, you see him look out the side view mirror, the side of it, and these locusts just kind of come out of these tentacles that are on the bug that's on top of this. Actually, it is a bug. The van looks like a bug, and some locusts come your way, and they're summoned kind of right around your vehicle, keeping you a bit there. Yeah, so summoning a swarm of locusts. So I'm going to take 2 strain, personal strain, to do that. Okay. Top of the round. Who would like to go first?
Well, so would you say the locusts are an obstacle?
I'm going to say the opposite. I'm going to say the locusts have the "they're all over me" abilities, Enemies who start their turn engaged with this creature lose their free maneuver. So any maneuvers cost strain for you.
And we're not engaged with them right now. They're just surrounding his vehicle.
No, he could summon them up to long range away. He's summoned them basically right at you, so they're on you right now.
Oh.
Yes.
All right. So in order for us to maneuver, we're going to have to take
some strain.
Some
Personal
system strain or personal strain.
Personal strain. It'll be personal strain. Well,
okay.
The character loses their free maneuver because you're trying to swap the locusts away from you.
All right. Well, I can't really do. So for my maneuver, I want to get closer. So I want to reposition for my maneuver, and so I'm going to take 2 strain to do that.
Yep.
So my strain is 14 minus 2. And
you're going to be at short range.
So that will move us to short range, getting quick draw in range. Then I would like to do some perhaps dangerous driving action to get even closer if possible. So I'll be doing the dangerous driving action.
Nice.
Right.
I currently have a 2 green, 1 yellow pool with 1 boost die for the handling of the vehicle. Haha, remembered it.
Nice.
And current speed is 3. So that will be, difficulty is the silhouette of my vehicle, so it's 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be upgraded 1 time.
Once for the speed 3, yep.
So for a total of 1 red, 1 purple. I will be spending one of my player story points to upgrade my check. And GM?
I don't have any story points, so
Okay.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, you didn't. Yeah, he didn't have any.
I don't.
All right. Well, in that case, I'm going to roll it.
Now you do, but
It's too late. Ha! All right. I just had 2 successes. Okay. So, I will avoid. Basically, I wanted the dangerous drive to get away from the locusts to avoid them.
Sounds good to me. Okay. That sounds good. Yeah. So you kind of swerve the speed and
Swerving back and forth.
Swerving back and forth. You actually go through a like a tent that how they do, right? And then you're in the tent for a while, right? Because the tent keeps going through, and the salad bar keeps going by like 5 or 6 times before you come out the other side of the tent, right? Because that's how you do it. And then when you come out, the swarm is kind of caught in the tent. Nice.
Yep, and I will zip out the under the tent flap on the other side. The chase music continuing.
All right.
Quick Draw managed to get a muffin out of one of the tables. He's munching on that. Awesome. Num.
Alrighty then.
That's my action.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Quick Draw. What you gonna do?
All right. Quick Draw. We'll try to get the same thing because I just realized if I could activate the linked attribute, I would probably do more damage and maybe do enough hull. But I'm thinking something else maybe. Not sure what though. Or maybe just keep aiming maybe at the engine.
Oh, gonna take out his engine block. That'll reduce his speed or make his speed go 0.
Yeah.
Definitely
So
all right.
there you go. So that's aiming.
Be careful not to hit my goyle.
Of course. That's what
I was thinking.
Keep her steady there, shark bait.
Jabberjaw.
Yeah.
Shark bait.
It's the middle of combat. I'm all flustered. So, all right, 2 setback dice for aiming because I cannot take maneuvers unless I take strain. But
get the accurate 1. And I've already used all those other boost dice. 1 purple, and of course my 4 yellow dice. Do you want to upgrade it?
No, because
No.
I have no story points on my side.
All right.
You have one.
No, you had one. Yeah.
Oh, did you use one? Oh,
Yeah.
Then yes, I would definitely want to.
All right.
It's
So
pistols. You shoot
that,
pistols,
yes.
and you're going to be. And it is. Oh, it is adversary 2, by the way.
Oh yes, adversary 2. So I add an extra green, and then upgrade that to another red. So there you go. 2 reds.
You add an extra. Okay. Oh, because you spent one. Did you spend one?
No, I just added because the base difficulty was 1 purple.
Mm-hmm.
You spent
Upgraded
story
twice.
points to upgrade it. Upgraded.
So it'll be
1.
2 red. It'll be 2 red.
2 red. Yeah, that's
red
what I
ones.
said.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right, let's do it. Do-do-do-do.
Oh, I see despair.
Yes, you do.
Oh, do I really? Oh.
No triumph though, but lots of successes anyway. So those 2 there, that 1 there. All right.
Okay.
So that total of 1, 2, 3, 4 successes, 2 advantage, and a despair.
2
But I
advantage and a despair. Well, what I'd like to do with that despair before you spend those advantage, there's a method and a reason to my madness. One of your pistols jams and misfires. Okay.
But can I still
Revolvers.
succeed? Okay, so before I spend the advantage.
You totally succeed. Yeah, that happens before you spend the advantage because
Okay.
you have that linked quality, right? That I don't want you.
Yeah. Yeah, because
One of them jams. Yes, you could.
Okay. Because then I was causing 10 points of damage, but now
Yes.
I can't.
Sure, you can.
That is 10 points of damage, but since I can't use the linked,
You can't do 10 more, but you do
No.
do one. You do another hull trauma. Now, did you specifically aim at the engine block?
yes, I did have those set back to
did.
represent aiming.
Do you
to
have
the-
enough advantage to
Yes.
do a critical hit?
I have 2, and my crit is 3. No, I do not.
Okay.
But I'll.
You do see the some smoke kind of coming out of the engine. You hit that area, but you didn't
Right.
critically hit it.
Right. All right. So I'll. With all that smoke going, that'll give a boost to Jabberjaw. Or no, Rokar is the next one to act. I'll give him a
Actually,
setback.
you know what you could do? Yeah, you know what? You give him a setback die because it actually you hit like one of the lines and now it's like smoky in front of him because the 3 on his handling, -3 to his handling wasn't enough, you fucker.
No, that's
All
it.
right, let's see. So
I also had the windshield wiper fluid. It's like there.
Yeah. All right. Well, because of the handling, because of the critical hit, the flat tire, I'm actually going to require a driving check for Lokar here to actually perform that reposition maneuver. Even though it is a maneuver, doesn't necessarily need a check. It's actually going to be a dangerous driving action instead of the reposition maneuver. Does that sound reasonable to you guys?
Yeah.
His silhouette is 3, so that's 3 difficulty. His speed is 3, so I'll upgrade that once. Oh my gosh, do I have enough setback dice here? I do. That's 4. That's 3, 4 setback dice. No boost dice. I have nothing to help that. Okay, so this is for me to pull back to medium range. I'm still at short range. So let's see if this works. Do you guys want to do anything to the pool, by the way? I have a yellow, 2 green, a red, 2 purple, and 4 black.
No,
I'm happy.
I'm happy.
Okay, first off, that. Holy crap. I succeed. Despairingly so, by the way. I have 1 success, 4 threat, and a despair.
So there is like every race, there were lots of spectators, and there was a group of them that were out there playing lawn darts, and
because that's what you did in the 80s, kids.
Yeah.
and
Throwing them straight up in the air.
threw it straight up in the air, and poof, it comes down in another one of his tires. So his despair is now that his speed will be reduced.
Yeah. That works for me. I like that. I really do. And I'm going to say that though he did succeed at the check so badly. If you guys want to spend the advantage to have him just stay at short range and not gain on you, I had 4 threat, dude. You said the despair was to take out another tire.
I spent the despair. I'm going to let Stefan spend the threat.
I'm thinking taking out another tire doesn't allow him to get further up. You know what I mean? Like further away from you.
But he succeeded.
He did succeed.
And you were trying to
get away. I was trying to gain. So I did succeed. So I'm back at medium range. Then.
So we need something different to do with that 4 threat. Stefan, you got something? I have an idea. Stefan's muted. So
Sorry, go ahead.
I have an idea. You want me to go ahead with it?
Yeah, go ahead.
So that hitting that tire getting hit by the lawn dart caused him to swerve a little bit. Now, while he did miss or get to medium range, he had a collision.
Oh, with a wall?
With a dumpster.
Yeah, or hay bales.
All right, roll
Silhouette 2 dumpster.
Perfect. Roll D100 for me.
Okay. So that
We're
will
going to see what kind of a crit this is.
86.
Oh, 86 is
pretty high, yeah.
Brakes damaged? Well, it's weapons damaged, but he doesn't have any weapons, so it doesn't matter.
He did too. He has that locust launcher.
Well, that's more of a primal summoning thing that he can do.
Well, it's damaged. He can't do it anymore.
That's true. He can't do it. That's true. That's his focus. That's his primal focus. All right. Yep. Sweet.
It he actually
summon locusts.
Went under a low-hanging something, and it just took all those off the top of the vehicle. Cut them right off.
Yes.
A low-hanging awning.
That's great. All right. Perfect. Yes. Locust. The king of the killer locust is no longer the king anymore.
No.
Just for a little bit.
Yep. Just for a little bit. All right. Okay.
I have an idea. If you want to
start in the next turn.
Yeah, I have an idea to go next.
Okay, remember we're at medium range, so if it
medium range. Oh, but that might be too far away then.
Well, you can let him go. You can let him close the gap.
Oh yeah, try to go closer. Go ahead.
The gap.
Okay, I will try to. Well, we're already 1 speed faster than him, so technically we're going to gain 1 range increment on him automatically. And I would like to.
Oh, that's right. We should have been moving multiple range increments. Yeah, you know what? I could have only moved
last turn when your speed was reduced to 2 at the end of the turn.
I should have only been able to move. How many range increments can I go in 2? Is it 1 range increment?
I think two range bands.
2 range bands, and at speed 3, I can move 3 range bands, so I'm able to gain 1 on it.
You will. Yes.
So that means that this turn we will be gaining 1 on him automatically.
Yep.
And I would like to then do that dangerous driving roll. I'll take the reposition mover to pull into engaged range. Dangerous driving to try and pit maneuver him.
Nice. Okay, that sounds good. You know what? We'll make the. You know what? With his adversary, you know what?
Was that
We're just going to
dangerous
do. No,
driving
it's
or
just
gain
no.
the advantage?
Well, it's dangerous driving, but I'm going to
Right,
make
okay.
this instead of doing the check from in there, opposed driving checks for
Opposed
this.
driving check. Okay, with the same
It
difficulty.
would be a red and 2 purple. So his driving, he has agility 1, driving of 1. I think. Or maybe it'll be better if you do the regular. You know what? Do it the way you were normally going to do it, and I'll just add adversary 2 to it.
Okay. So normally, it's the silhouette of my vehicle, upgraded once for my current speed, and then you're adversarying to give me twice to give me 2 red and a purple.
Think so.
Okay. That's my current pool against my.
Actually, it should be 3 red because going speed 3, right? Upgrades your piloting check once, / driving once. Going speed 3.
Okay. 3 red.
Okay.
I'm going to spend a story point to upgrade. So I have 2 yellow, a green, and a blue. And yeah, that's so
a lot of red in that pool.
Yeah, there
and
is.
You're going to be, and yeah, this is going to be, yeah. So if you make this, it'll be a collision. I think regardless, it'll be a collision.
He's
sure.
one silhouette larger than us, so that ought to hurt. But I once saw a blue shark perform this maneuver, so I'm pretty sure I could do it.
Oh my God.
All right.
Okay.
So my 2 yellow dice are balanced out. I am left with a failure with 2 advantage.
Oh.
So what I'd like to say is instead of pit maneuvering him, I slide right in on his rear bumper and kind of
Slam him.
Yeah, no, I missed.
True.
So instead of doing, to hit, I missed. I slide right in on his rear bumper and I'm right there, but I'm not like, I'm not able to get him. I don't know why.
All right.
Quick
So
draw.
Close.
It's on
All
you.
right. All right. Quick draw. This time, instead of the guns, just puts those away. And since he's a cowboy, he's got, of course, a lasso on with him. He quick draws the lasso.
Why don't you spend a story point? Because I know for sure I did not give you a lasso.
I know you
Because
didn't.
I didn't even want to know where that was going to go with you. Sorry. Spend a story
All
point
right.
to pull your lasso.
Yeah, he's got a lasso.
Did I say that right?
Snap. Yeah. Don't worry there, Jail Patrol. I'll get your girl out for you.
But you know what you do. But what does he have though? Other than the pistols, what does he have?
Holsters. Fancy
What
holsters.
kind? Fancy holsters.
Fancy
Gives him +1
holsters.
soak, +1 defense. I don't know.
Yeah.
And what does Jabberjaw have for gear?
Drum set.
Interdimensional drum set.
All right, go ahead.
So I'm going to use, I guess, coordination to try and lasso Velma and get her out of there.
Of course, because she's smart enough. She was able to open up the back door of this
Yeah.
van, so she's
Exactly.
there. All right,
Yeah.
let's lasso her
So-
with coordination.
So yeah,
This is
so
gonna
that's
be
two,
great.
2 green, 2 yellow. What's my difficulty?
Average with the
Average.
setback die because you're
Of course.
in a moving vehicle
Yeah.
next to a really big ass blue shark.
Yeah.
You don't have a whole lot of
I'm a
lassoing
great
area.
white shark. Thank you very much.
That too.
Yeah.
White and blue shark.
Yes. All right. And the 2 advantage you just use to position yourself like that behind the
behind.
vehicle.
I
Okay.
guess.
All right.
Which gives you, I know you want to ask for it, but it does give you a boost die because you're
There
right
you
in the vehicle. Why not? Go ahead.
There you go. Right on the bumper. Excellent.
Okay.
So 2 purple, a black. I've spent my story point so to get the lasso.
That's
are
not
you
part
happy
of the
with the
check. That's not part of the check. If you have another one to spend, feel free.
Okay. I will.
I have no idea whether you do or not because I have not been keeping track.
Oh,
We do.
I have.
Good. You do
Now
have
they're
one.
all
Why not?
Now they're all on the GM side, according to my system.
Perfect.
And are you upgrading it?
Well, of course, once you're lassoing somebody from a moving speed buggy. Hello.
Yeah. All right. But I'm not targeting Lokar, so I don't get the adversary.
Correct.
All right, let's go. All right.
Well,
No despair this time.
good. Velma doesn't die. Velma doesn't die. Okay. Doesn't get run over by Jabberjaw.
I do get 2 successes and 3 advantage.
Well then, how does this encounter end there, Stefan? I'll give you narrative license.
So she opens the doors. Jabberjaw! Jeepers! There you are! And she sees the lasso coming, hooks her over the head and around her waist, and how they do it sometimes with the arms sticking to their body, and she gets yanked. I yank her with the advantage, just a little crack of the whip kind of thing, and she lands in my arms. Just, let's peel out of here, partner.
All right, excellent. And then
she pecks a kiss on my cheek, and I go as I drive on.
That's right. And you know what? That's great. I think we'll end it there.
Yeah. Perfect.
That was great. Great. Let's end it then.
All right.
Well done, guys.
Quick draw. I saw everything. I'm so impressed. Let's go out in the back and bring that lasso.
Okay, everybody. Well, that was our show. Loved the ending. That was great. That was pretty funny. Though I think in hindsight, if you are doing chases, I think the competitive checks to maneuver people is a good way of doing it. And if you have an adversary, I don't think you would apply the adversary to that. You would just have them make a competitive check. You would have your the players, the drivers, whatever, pilots make their competitive checks. So we played it rules as written, so worked out okay.
Yep.
But,
yep.
All right.
We had fun.
Always. Okay, so our next show, Tony is going to be running another actual play, and yes, you all are thinking, but they just did one. Well, that's because if you didn't listen to our end of year episode last year, we're actually going to go every other now. Going to be playing an episode and an actual play and a regular normal deep dive show like we just did. And this is going to be session 1 in our Primordial Machina setting. This adventure is called The Crying Sky.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to that, buddy.
Yeah.
A little bit of news. Specifically, if you haven't heard, the FFG forums, Genesys forums, are closing down at the end of January. But thanks to Drainsmith, he's migrated those forums to his own out there at genesis.bigevil.net. I will have that link in the show notes for us. Or you could just go out to the Genesys forums and see what he's got out there and link it and do all that. So thanks, Drainsmith, for doing that. I'm sure that was a pain in the arse to do, but a lot of work, but appreciate it. That's awesome. I think the community thanks you too. So well done.
That's also known as Scott Zumwalt on the Facebook communities and Discord and MeWe. He's got a MeWe. All those, and he's left links to it on all of those. So
yeah. So if you haven't seen it, go to it. So all right.
Yep.
What do you got next?
I've got another bit of news as well. I posted it on social media, our MeWe page as well, and a few other places. Because Scott Zumwalt, who we talked about earlier, asked me to listen to a YouTube video that our friend of the show, Guillaume Tardif, had listened to a little bit. A guy called Stéphane Bogard in France. He's part of Edge Studio, and they're situated in Europe. Had a little interview in French. I listened to it, talking about what Edge Studio in general is coming out. And there's a few things with L5R and so forth. But the main thing that they mentioned they sort of reiterated that Twilight Imperium will be one of the big settings they're coming out with. And they also mentioned a second setting book that'll be coming out, but they don't say what. As well as 2 smaller products, like a supplement or for another setting that's already out, but they haven't mentioned it. So you can try to find the YouTube video in our MeWe page, Facebook. I even linked it on Twitter.
Cool.
So you can read up a little bit on that. If you understand French, go ahead and listen. It's French, so sometimes even I wasn't sure how they were pronouncing certain words. Like they pronounce the word Cthulhu very differly. So I was like, what?
All right, then.
Okay, I'm going to guess that it sounds like someone sneezing.
A little bit. Appelle Cthulhu. Okay. Cthulhu. Which sounds like he's saying, have you read it? Have you read it? No, I haven't read it yet. You haven't published it yet. So, yeah, that's one thing that came out. And then is a listener question / feedback from one of our fans, Matt Grunswig, on Facebook. He hit us up and he says, just caught up with the last 2 episodes. 1, Stefan, I am so glad that I was driving to work at 5 a.m. when I heard the comment about being hung like a horse in Snagglepuss's voice. Very good impression. Oh, thank you very much, Matt.
That's a weird little comment that he was glad he was driving to work at 5 a.m.
Yeah, at 5 a.m. I guess it woke him up.
That's sarcasm.
I'm pretty sure. Maybe he was laughing and almost wrecked. Sorry if you did there, Matt.
Yeah, hopefully. And second, he says, you asked for cartoon lists in the previous episode, so here's my short list. And he mentions Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and also Darkwing Duck. You also added later on Tailspin as maybe another possible Saturday morning cartoon series that we could do. So we'll definitely take those under consideration and see who wants to do what.
Well, Wonder Twins, activate.
There you go.
Shape of.
That's
my era. Fork of a bucket.
Yeah. A bucket of water.
I'm going to take the assist action. Really, that's all I'm going to do for my turn. Every turn, I'm just going to take the assist action because I have no ability to do anything but assist my sister.
Yeah.
You could turn into an eagle.
Yeah.
He turns into water. Or a bucket to hold the water. Anyway.
Right that's it.
That's great.
So thank you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Appreciate
and so you can reach out to us like Matt did on Facebook at Finding the Narrative, or email us at findingthenarrativepodcast@gmail.com. Speak to all 3 of us over Finding the Narrative on MeWe. Speak to Stefan alone on Twitter at FTN_Genesys. Recommend us to others to listen to. We're findable in all kinds of places. Yes, that's my word, findable. Podbean, iTunes, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, and more.
Yes, probably
Somewhere.
Somewhere.
I specifically don't list one, so I can say and more.
Yes, well done.
All right. So, anyhow, this is Tony saying, just let's tell a story and spend a story point. Whoop, 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 whoop.
And this is Stefan saying dare to ask for the boost dice and then exit stage left.
And this is Chris telling you to remember the rule of cool and laugh your fucking head off when your buddies are talking like cartoon characters like they are right now. And just have fun. All right. Night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast, is not affiliated with or endorsed by any companies mentioned on this show. Any of the products mentioned on our show or appear on our website are the property and copyright of their respected owners. All items are used under fair use and educational and review purposes. All other items are the intellectual property of Finding the Narrative, a Genesys RPG podcast. Copyright
2021.
All rights reserved.